We are living through a period of institutionalized and normalized corruption. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and this is Winnie the Westie, and it is time for an update in Justin Trudeau's third ethics violation, which
did not ever come to fruition.
Now, before we get into this third ethics violation, out of which Justin Trudeau skated by the skin of his teeth, if I may mix a metaphor, we need to go over Justin Trudeau's first two ethics violations very briefly. In 2017, Justin Trudeau was found guilty of his first ethics violation for having taken gifts, private vacations to one Aga Khan's private island. Aga Khan at the time, through his various entities, was petitioning and receiving from the federal government tens of millions of dollars. Aga Khan Affair. The Aga Khan Affair was a political scandal in Canada involving Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. In 2017, Trudeau was found guilty of violating sections 5, 11, 12, and 21(1) of the Federal Conflict of Interest Act by accepting private island vacations, gifts, and flights from the Aga Khan, a philanthropist and spiritual leader of the Shia Ismailism movement. This was deemed significant as the Aga Khan Foundation, a registered lobby, had received over $50 million of federal funding in 2016. So just let that sink in. Aga Khan, while he is petitioning the government for tens of millions of dollars through his various entities, is paying for lavish trips for Justin Trudeau and his family to visit his private island, various gifts, etc., etc. The amazing thing about this is that things that start off as bribery eventually turn into extortion. Once someone knows that you have accepted a bribe from them, it becomes very easy for them to extort you in the future, and if they never turn to extortion, well, there was always the bribery in the first place in order to obtain tens of millions of dollars from the federal government. That was Justin Trudeau's first ethics violation. Let's fast forward a few years to the SNC-Lavalin's second ethics violation. From Global News Politics, Trudeau broke ethics rules over SNC-Lavalin affair's second ethics violation since 2015. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was found to have violated a section of the Conflict of Interest Act with his conduct in the SNC-Lavalin scandal, marking the second time Trudeau has been found to have violated the ethics code since coming into office in 2015. Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion released a damning report Wednesday that found Trudeau improperly pressured former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould to reach a deferred prosecution agreement with Quebec engineering giant SNC-Lavalin to help the company avoid criminal prosecution on fraud and bribery charges. Let this one sink in. Justin Trudeau had pressured the Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould to not press charges or not follow through on charges of fraud and bribery against SNC-Lavalin. He pressured her to agree to a deferred prosecution agreement that would have basically let them off, and when she refused to do so, he demoted her from office. Just appreciate this for what it is. When the Minister of Justice and Attorney General that he himself appointed insisted on pursuing criminal charges against SNC-Lavalin, he demoted her out of that position. This coming from the wokest of prime ministers, the champion of women's rights. He demoted a woman that he himself appointed because she refused to follow his instructions, and on the subject of how he treats women, there were other scandals. From The Guardian, Trudeau, I apologize to reporter behind groping claim. Canadian PM, quote, very confident, end quote. He did not act inappropriately at music festival in 2000. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has for the first time publicly acknowledged that he apologized in 2000 to a reporter who alleged he groped her, but said he was very confident he did not act inappropriately. But Trudeau's ethical violations are not limited to potential corruption, potential bribery, potential groping a woman. When it comes to racial issues, Justin Trudeau also has his own problems. But all of that just brings us to the present situation, the WE scandal, out of which Justin Trudeau just skated by the skin of his teeth. From the National Post, Ethics Commissioner clears Justin Trudeau in WE charity scandal. Quote, the appearance of a conflict of interest does not constitute a contravention of the act. The conflict must be real, end quote, Dion said. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau did not breach the Conflict of Interest Act for his role in the WE charity scandal, says Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion. Dion was asked to study the issue last year just after news broke that WE received a contract without competition to administer a $900 million student volunteer grant program. What might be the conflict in Justin Trudeau unilaterally giving a contract without any competition, without any discussion to WE charity? Well, it just so happens that members of Justin Trudeau's family were on the payroll of the WE charity. Trudeau said he knew WE had paid his mother and his brother speaking fees for attending WE events, although he said he was not aware of the amounts. His wife, Sophie Grégoire Trudeau, was also a volunteer ambassador for the charity. Trudeau's brother and mother collected nearly $300,000 from the charity in speaking fees, but Dion said in his report that wasn't enough to put the Prime Minister in conflict. What? What the fuck? Oh, really, that is not enough to put Justin Trudeau in a conflict of interest. His mother and his brother are being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars from the charity that he is granting a sole source government contract to without any bid or competition. Wait until you hear Dion's reasoning as to why this does not constitute a conflict of interest. In a news release, Dion said Trudeau himself was not in a conflict when the issue came to a vote at cabinet. Quote, "The appearance of a conflict of interest does not constitute a contravention of the act. The conflict must be real," end quote, he said. Quote, "During the examination, I determined there was no friendship between Mr. Trudeau and the Kielburgers, nor was Mr. Trudeau involved in any discussions with them leading to the decisions," end quote. There was no friendship between Justin Trudeau and the Kielburgers? What on earth does that mean? All that I care about is that Justin Trudeau's mother and brother were paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in the period leading up to the we being given this contract to administer $900 million. But if you thought Dion's reasoning was warped up to now, wait until you hear this. Now, some of you are going to be saying to yourselves, this is pure dumb reasoning. This is beyond dumb reasoning. This is actually insidiously intelligent reasoning because it allows Dion to avoid the real questions. Dion said he is satisfied Trudeau didn't attempt to steer the contract toward the charity. Trudeau did not need to steer the contract towards the charity because there was only one road to take to that charity. There was no one else in competition for that contract. You don't need to steer anything anywhere when there was only one direction for it to go. That is the corruption. He said the evidence also shows Trudeau had no involvement in Employment and Social Development Canada's recommendation that we administer the CSSG. Quote, "I am satisfied that Mr. Trudeau did not give preferential treatment to we," end quote. This is the true insidious nature of true corruption. You don't need to say what needs to be done. Everybody knows what needs to be done because they know who is breading whose butter here. But this paragraph in particular is the highlight. It is the pinnacle of the mental gymnastics that Dion had to go through in order to exonerate Trudeau. Quote, "Even if we stood to gain financially from administering the CSSG, the argument that Mr. Trudeau's relatives, who were remunerated through we for their speaking engagements, could ultimately benefit from the funds received by we to administer the CSSG is too remote and speculative to merit further consideration," end quote. It's not that that possibility is too remote and too speculative to merit further consideration. It's that it's totally irrelevant. The fact that they never stood to benefit from the funds being administered by the we charity is absolutely irrelevant. The charity itself stood to benefit from administering the funds in the order of tens of millions of dollars. From the BBC News, We Charity Scandal, a simple guide to the new crisis for Trudeau. 20 August 2020. Mr. Trudeau is facing the third ethics investigation of his 5 years in office over the government's decision to task we with administering the program. We Charity Canada would have received up to $43.5 million to manage the program under that agreement.
$43.5 million.
The Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion concluded that there was no conflict of interest because Justin Trudeau's family did not directly stand to benefit from the funds being administered by the we charity after they had already received several $100,000 in speaking fees at charity events, by the way, over the years preceding the awarding of this contract to the we charity, where we charity itself would stand to benefit upwards of $43.5 million to administer the monies. Mr. Dion, I think you have failed to understand what the true conflict of interest was here. This is not unintelligent reasoning. This is highly intelligent reasoning in order to do the required mental gymnastics to get out of holding Justin Trudeau responsible for his third ethics violation in 6 years. But don't worry, even if they found a way to let Justin Trudeau off the hook scot-free, they found someone to throw under the bus, and that someone was actually Justin Trudeau's Minister of Finance. From the National Post, Bill Morneau broke ethics law 3 times during we charity affairs, Ethics Commissioner rules. Morneau said Craig Kielburger was a, quote, friendly acquaintance, end quote. Kielburger said their relationship was purely professional. Mario Dion didn't buy it. Former Finance Minister Bill Morneau broke federal ethics law 3 times over his and his office's involvement with we charity, notably due to his, quote, friendship, end quote, with one of the organization's co-founders, the Ethics Commissioner has ruled. In the much anticipated report, Mario Dion criticized Morneau for failing to recuse himself from Cabinet's decision to outsource a $900 million student volunteer grant program to the organization, for allowing his staff to, quote, disproportionately assist, end quote, we because of his ties to co-founder Craig Kielburger, and for ultimately, quote, improperly furthering, end quote, we's private interests. It is absolutely illogical and incongruous to find Morneau guilty for those very reasons while simultaneously letting Justin Trudeau off the hook for the reasons that Dion gave. It is absolutely intellectually
incompatible.
The only way to reconcile these two findings is to truly understand that Justin Trudeau was never going to be found guilty, and they just needed someone to throw under the bus, and they needed a way to distinguish that person from Justin Trudeau himself, because it is inconceivable, illogical, and intellectually dishonest to find Morneau guilty for those reasons while simultaneously letting Justin Trudeau off the hook. This is nothing short of institutionalized, normalized corruption, and it is about time that the people say that we have had enough of this garbage. And the bottom line, if we don't say that, all we are saying is we are okay with this type of business in government, and let's just vote it back in next election cycle. So those are the latest updates from Canada. The situation truly is incredible for anybody who's paying attention. I just think that the biggest problem is not enough people are paying attention. And with that said, if you like my videos, you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm.
Feed me Seymour.
If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment. We've got PayPal, Patreon, subscribe to our YouTube membership. We've got merch. Politics ruins everything. Robert Barnes and I do weekly live streams every Sunday. Tune in this Sunday. It's going to be an amazing live stream. It's my 42nd birthday. We do weekly streams with a guest every Wednesday called The Sidebar, and we have got some great guests coming up. We are also on Locals if you want to support us there and don't know where to find us. It is called
VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com.
All of my content is also on Rumble, so you can watch it there. But more important than any of that, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!